Okay, people, so we got some new information on the Mortal Kombat movie, especially for the sequel, which I know and we all know is going to end up getting one. And it says here, Mortal Kombat director Simon McQuaid on the sequel plans major deaths and Johnny Cage. This one is going to be interesting, so let's hop in. So, director Simon McQuaid's Mortal Kombat builds the groundwork for what could be a glory action franchise. And star Joe Taslim already told Very that he signed up for 4 more movies with Warner Brothers if Warner Brothers decides to go ahead with additional installments. The movie features several threads that could be explored in further films. Joiner pieces that McQuaid intentionally added. Most obvious comes in the film's final frame, which shows a movie poster for a fictional Hollywood superstar and iconic Mortal Kombat video game character Johnny Cage. Protagonist Cole Young remarks that he's off to Los Angeles in search of more Mortal Kombat fighters, directly setting up a possible sequel. It's been documented in a movie. For those of you who haven't watched the movie, go check it out. It's out right now. And I like how they set up everything for the sequel for the actual tournament. People need to remember that this movie is a prequel. So it's actually a pre-tournament before the Mortal Kombat actual tournament, which is coming into the sequel. The film makes sense in a lot of ways, in which I believe is true. Because if you are a real Mortal Kombat fan, you will understand why this is a prequel film, not an actual tournament. Several major characters die in the movie, but Mortal Kombat fans know that death isn't permanent in the video game franchise. Sub-Zero Taslim is burnt to a crisp by Scorpion and Kung Lao. Maxon has his soul sucked out by master villain Shang Tsung. Not to be forgotten, Kano, Molina, Cabal, and Atara, Reiko, and Goro, and all meet grisly ends. McQuaid told Ferrari that I don't want death to be something that is, I can't pronounce that word, and certainly Sub-Zero has some opportunities. In the end, we see Shang Tsung conspicuously retrieve Sub-Zero's corpse in a puff of black smoke in the games. The original Sub-Zero died and was resurrected as the undead ninja Noom Saibot, which could be what McQuaid hints at. In a spoiler-filled conversation with Ferrari, McQuaid discussed a sequel ideas, undead fighters, and what other characters he like to see in the potential follow-up. It's not going to be the potential follow-up. It's going to happen. Since the film is doing so good right now, the sequel is going to happen. I believe it. I know it. Sequels are a bit tricky because you can't totally ignore them, because that wouldn't be a smart move. But none of us use the S word. We never talked about it in any depth whatsoever because we feel like we have to put all our energy into this film. That being said, if the fans want another movie, that's not for us to decide. It's for the fans to decide. They would need a couple of joiners pieces that we know can lead us somewhere, because there's a treasure trove of stuff that's just sitting there. The reason Johnny Cage is not in the original film is he's such a giant personality that he almost has his own gravitational field. The feeling was that he would throw it out of balance slightly. I get asked about Katana just as much as Johnny Cage. There's a lot of interesting characters, story, and material to work with, so we haven't really dug into it. We just know we're very privileged that we're sitting there. If we do get that, and I'm not saying we will, I'm just saying if, a big if, then we will go down on that path. He's basically saying if we possibly get a sequel, they're going to be adding to the next film. So all I can do is just be patient. I love this movie, so it's basically setting up for the next tournament. It's just facts. And this is what else you got to say. I guess a lot this shifted to be a little more female. There are some fantastic female characters in Mortal Kombat, and I think we can bring balance there to a better extent. If there were no other specific characters we really wanted to put in. Very early on, there was a scene with Rain, but he wasn't being done justice and wasn't driven the story forward. There's a reason he got put back onto the bench. There are a lot of characters that are chosen for him. Chosen from. I've been so busy trying to collaborate this assemble that I haven't thought too much about any other beyond just understanding why people really love who gets talked about a lot and who are really interesting characters. He's basically saying that he haven't had time to decide which characters are going to be in the film. So, although I would have loved to see Rain in this movie, but he was cut from this film, so there's a possibility that he might end up showing up in the next film. So, it's going to happen. And this is what else we had to say. Well, yes, if you just look at the games, it's exactly what the game has done in a really interesting way. I think we could perhaps learn from the games and try to do something interesting again. There's a big art stakes on all of this. I think the way we handle timelines and alternate incarnations of the same character is really interesting. It doesn't always mean that characters comes back. Oh, I've been resurrected. I'm the same. There's a really interesting evolution and growth for these characters. The experience of death informs who they become, so I guess I don't want death to be something that is, once again, I cannot pronounce the word. That is something I certainly thought about as we discussed the story and what that means. So I think there are a lot of opportunities there, and certainly Sub-Zero has some opportunities. Well, I feel like I read the same one early though, but this is something different. So the part where he was basically saying he follows some source materials from the game, but it's been done differently. Not everything has to be just like in a game in terms of story, because it's something different. And I think that's what's good about the film. Despite the bad writing and stuff, the action and everything else is pretty good. And this is where he's talking about the tournament. The story came out of this idea that we didn't just want to redo the first film. If you look at Mortal Kombat's evolution over the decades, that's how evolved and grow beyond the ideas of the tournament. That's obviously essential within the DNA of Mortal Kombat, and is one of the fundamentals. If you look at where the story has gone, the idea of the tournament within a script informs a certain structure and rhythm. We didn't really want to serve that. To serve a tournament idea, if you have to build in a certain way. So it was a couple of reasons that came to it playing out in a way they did. So he's saying that they didn't really want to bring in a tournament in the movie. They didn't want to redo the 2021 week. What I'm trying to say is that they didn't want to redo the Mortal Kombat reboot. This is actually like an origin movie of how the characters get their powers, setting up for the actual tournament in the next film. All of this makes sense. But again, about the writing, it was not good. And this is what we had to say about Cole Young. He was always connected to Scorpion. Like I kind of figured that. His character involved because with the other characters, there was less sideways movement. We had to be very specific with bringing those characters to life the right way. And they came with their own set of properties that we had to respect and amplify. With Cole, he had some license. We gave ourselves a couple of rules. We wanted him to be built out of the material that was within Mortal Kombat. So it makes sense to have him as an MMA fighter. It made sense to have a daughter and a family aspect. We thought if you were playing him in a game, what would it be a good power to have? Let's treat him as a game character and film character. It was a consistent process of building him and to have him born out of blood. His power really comes out of a combination of the Kunani and Blade, another realm and energy within. And if you want the article, I will have it in the description below. Now, this article is really interesting. It's just about him explaining about how he made this film a bit different, not redoing the whole Mortal Kombat reboot from the 95, but it's basically the origin story of how these characters got their powers. And with Cole Young, I still don't like the character, but I kind of understand why he had to be in it. Hopefully, they'll be able to do something better in the sequel. I really want to see Johnny Cage in it, and I'm believing for a fact that he's going to be in it. So we have to wait and see. What are your thoughts of, and what are your ideas of the sequel for them to do if they bring Johnny Cage and other characters in the film? Let me know. Put it in the chat.